Hi, Dennis Weiss for Why Like Ike, and we have a great story for you here in the month of February, which is Valentine's Day, kind of the month, right?
Absolutely.
We have William Snyder, and we have Pam Sanfilippo, and you're an archivist.
I'm the education specialist.
You're an education specialist, okay. But you bring stuff, so you're my archivist today. And William is the curator of the museum here, and we're here in Valentine's Day month to talk about Ike and Mamie, not president, not first lady, but Ike and Mamie's story. Cool story.
Cool story. Yes, they met when they were 20 and 26, well, actually 19 and 25 years old. They were,
Okay.
6 years apart. And after Ike graduated from West Point, his first duty station was at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And Mamie was from a fairly well-to-do family that lived in Denver, and they escaped the cold winters in Denver by going to San Antonio for the winter. And they were introduced through mutual friends.
Okay, I've never really knew that part of the story. I knew where they were from, but I didn't know how they met. So they met in snowbirding in San Antonio. Huh?
Yes, that's right. And there's a great story about how they met. Mamie's dance card was full for 6 weeks, as they used to say back in those days. So she wasn't available to go out with a young gentleman until about 6 weeks after they first met. So Ike, being Ike, played it very cool and kept dropping by the family home. And so by the time he and Mamie actually got to go out on their first date, he was really good friends with her mother and her sisters. They just adored him.
Yeah, that's a terrific story. Looking at the picture behind me, I can see why her dance card might have been full.
Yes, she was a very attractive young lady, and certainly from a very well-to-do family, and so she had plenty of prospects, as they might have said in those days. But Mamie wasn't having any of the social young gentlemen that were in her circle very much. And supposedly there's a great quote from Mamie that after she met Ike, she said, "At last here is a real man. I am so tired of those lounge lizards with the patent leather hair."
I couldn't agree more. All right, that is a cool story. So I had never heard that. Okay, what artifacts do we have, and what light do they shed on the Ike and Mamie story?
Well, we have a picture here of the Denver home that
Okay.
Mamie grew up in, and also a picture of her at about the time of her high school graduation. She attended a finishing school for young ladies, so knew all of the proper etiquette of the period, making her an ideal spouse for Ike as he would move up in the ranks of the Army. A very attractive young woman. And it was basically a whirlwind romance from the time they met in October of 1915, and then they became engaged on Valentine's Day in 1916.
I didn't know that. On Valentine's Day?
On Valentine's Day.
Well, this is a Valentine's story.
Very much so.
I'll bet Ike gave her flowers because he wanted to then.
Probably, not because he had to.
There you go. There you go.
And the engagement.
Yes, we're very fortunate. Ike originally gave Mamie his own West Point class ring.
Okay.
And
I saw that.
as sort of a promise ring, kind of like folks still do today. But here is her engagement ring that he had made. It is a slightly smaller version of a West Point ring, and this was her first engagement ring.
Really?
Yes. So
Isn't that
it is
something?
based on a West Point ring. It's just a little bit smaller.
Well, I guess when you marry a person whose career military, you kind of marry the military as well, right?
Pretty much.
Fitting ring?
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
She wrote a letter to her aunt and uncle shortly after the engagement, telling them that she was engaged, and she actually describes the ring to them that she had received as her first one. And then she says she received her solitaire, which was set in platinum with a lot of filigree work, also 3 small cut diamonds on either side of the large stone. It's a gorgeous engagement ring. So she kind of had 2 engagement rings.
Is that on display at the library from time to time, William?
No, that still belongs to the family.
It does, okay.
Yes.
Someday.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, someday. On the wall behind us are some pictures of some very good-looking young people who grew and excelled in everything they did. And it's the Ike and Mamie story, not just the Ike story today.
That's right,
William?
That's right.
Yeah.
And the one photograph behind me is Ike playing football at West Point, which he loved to do until he, blew out his knee, unfortunately. But one of the other pieces that we have here is he gave Mamie a little football charm that lists the scores of the 1913 and 1914 Army and Navy football games that he would have been coaching the team for. So
wow.
Hopefully Dave can get a close-up shot of that later. But it's a great little charm.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. I saw it on the table, but I didn't look at it close enough to see. It has the score of the Army-Navy game, which was very important.
That's right, because Army won both games.
Okay, so give me some insight into Mamie's life from her engagement over the next couple of years. What do you think?
Well, they had initially wanted to wait for their wedding until after she turned 20 in November of 1916. And then she thought maybe, based on Ike's duty station, it might even be delayed longer. But as it turned out, they ended up moving things up and were married in July of 1916. So this year will also be the 100th anniversary of their wedding as well.
Another thing to celebrate at the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum.
Right. And again, she thought that, or her father thought that she wouldn't do very well as the wife of a young career officer in the military, but she learned very quickly, and the skills she had developed as a young lady came into play, the kind of learning the protocol and order of military. Several of the officers who served as mentors for Ike, their spouses served as mentors for Mamie as well.
I think that's the way it still works with military families. The people who've been there a while, both men and women, help the others, mentor them along. There's a whole set of duties and difficulties that come along with being married to an Army career.
That's right. And to go back to the photographs behind us, the large one directly behind us of the two of them, that was their engagement photograph.
Stunning photograph.
Yes, absolutely. Ike in his dress whites and Mamie in a gown very similar to her wedding dress. And the final portrait of Mamie behind you is a portrait of her in her wedding dress, which we do have on permanent display in the museum.
Question, what did Mamie's family do in Denver? Either of you know?
Her father had made his fortune in the meatpacking industry in Iowa.
All right.
And then they had moved to,
Okay.
and so it was kind of in semi-retirement, is my understanding.
Yes, he got to retire at the ripe old age of 38.
Really?
So yes, they did very well in the meatpacking business in Iowa.
Well.
And they moved to Denver because Mamie was one of 4 daughters, and she and one of her sisters had health conditions that at the time the clear mountain air of Denver they thought would be good for them. So that was the move.
There were a lot of people who moved west for clear mountain air or clear dry air in Arizona.
Exactly.
And that sort of a thing. That's interesting. Didn't know any of that. Last name is Dowd, right?
Dowd. That's correct. And the Dowd family home was actually where they had their wedding ceremony at July 1st, 1916. So.
Very cool, very cool. Where did they go after they had been married? Do either of you know?
Ike was still at San Antonio for a couple of more years. And then, of course, they just started moving around wherever he was posted.
Went all over the world and ended up right back here in Abilene, Kansas.
Yes, permanently so.
Permanently so, yes. Very interesting. You know, we talk about President Eisenhower and General Eisenhower a lot on the camera. We don't often talk about Mamie. And from, what was the date of their wedding?
July 1st.
July 1st year?
1916.
1916. They were truly one, man and wife. And, you know, Mamie had her own side of everything that General and then later President Eisenhower did for our country. Very significant as a First Lady.
Yes, she certainly did. And one of his duty stations was in Panama with General Fox Connor in the early 20s. And Mamie did not care for that. She was not a fan of the hot, humid air and conditions. But
Well, it ruins your gowns.
well, of course you get
course it does.
wrinkles,
Right.
Exactly. But one of the things, excuse me, she did there with Mrs. Connor, as we were talking about how the wives sort of have their own ranking order. They set up a hospital for women and children there on the base in Panama. That was something that health care was completely lacking for women and children on the military
That's
bases.
interesting. I didn't know that either. You guys are just full of things I didn't know today. That's interesting.
Yeah, so we often I think of Mamie as the first lady or the hostess at the White House, but she was extremely active throughout her life, mainly with healthcare issues and the welfare of children.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, let's do a show one of these days where you can have some time to dig some of that archival material out, and let's take a look at that. That's fascinating.
We can do that.
If I had no idea, most of those people have no idea either. Okay. So what else about young Ike and Mamie can you present for us today?
She basically said her career was Ike, and on the day that they got married, he also received his first promotion to first lieutenant, and that was going to be kind of the pattern of their lives. And we do think of them as these very public figures once he reaches fame during World War II, but in facing the challenges and the joys of that, but they also face some personal challenges and joys as well. Their first son was born in 1917, about a year after they got married, but he unfortunately contracted diphtheria and passed away, or no, I'm sorry, scarlet fever.
Scarlet
I was
fever.
getting the two mixed up.
The whole range of diseases we don't have to talk about too much today, but were very real and a risk to people then.
And that's Dowd Dwight was his name, the photograph there, and he was affectionately nicknamed Icky by grandmother Dowd. Not sure why, except maybe it was short for Little Ike, but it came out Icky for some reason, and that's unfortunate. But that's a photograph of Little Icky and his baby cup that we're fortunate enough to have in the collection.
That's an interesting photograph. Very period photograph.
Very period photograph, absolutely, absolutely. And then their second son, John, was born a little over a year after Icky passed away.
I see, yeah. You think about Eisenhower as a president, and we talk about it on camera quite a lot, but he presided over such a change in America. From when World War II started, there was more than one army pulling artillery with horses. To 1961, when he gave his farewell address, and just a few years later, we put a man on the moon. Yeah, that's change. From horses to men on the moon, that's a lot of change.
It certainly is, and Ike was really in there in a lot of those changes. Maybe not leading the charge, but he was certainly right at the very beginning. From the famous military 1919 cross-country convoy, where he discovered how horrible the roads were in this country, which might, have led a little bit to the interstate highway system,
Could
perhaps
add
a few years,
things to do with it, right?
To when he was commander of the Tank Corps at Camp Meade, and how he and where he met his good friend, later General Patton, there at the camp, and they pushed so hard for the tank to be the replacement to the horse.
Yeah.
So.
As you prepared for this, Pam, what's the most interesting thing about Mamie that came to your view?
I would say everything that I was reading talked about how friendly she was, and she said herself she wanted to be remembered as a friend. Even if she was shaking 300 or 3,000 hands a day of people coming through the White House, she would take the time to find out their name or where they were from and make some personal connection with them and make them feel special. And I think that is a testament to her role as well.
Hospitality is a gift. and it's a great valued gift in relationships with people. So what we have learned today, that they're in the people managing business in the Eisenhower family, there were two experts.
That's right.
Both Ike and Mamie were very good with people, and 8 years of peace and prosperity was also 8 years of personal peace and prosperity at home as well, with them and their family, of growing a relationship to represent the free world. What a challenge! What an incredible accomplishment, and Mamie shared in all of that.
And in many ways led the charge in the hospitality. I like to say that the Eisenhowers became the most entertaining first family up to that point in time, and not just because they were fun, but they were, but because they held the most dinners and functions at the White House than any president or first family up to that point in time. And Mamie really saw her role as an extension of Ike's, and it was that personal diplomacy. And whether you're shaking 3,000 hands a day, or you're having a private dinner with another head of state, it's something that Mamie took very seriously.
I don't believe that it's possible to fake hospitality or warmth if you genuinely don't hold a like for people. And what a benefit to her husband's administration that she was so gifted in that area, and had a desire and ability to make people feel welcome to the people's house.
And one of his speechwriters, I think it was Kevin McCann, actually said that if Eisenhower would have been Colonel Dwight D. Eisenhower if it wasn't for Mamie.
That's funny. Wouldn't that be a great story? Wouldn't that be a great story? I have no reason to doubt it, do you?
No, not a bit.
Any partnership, sometimes there's somebody out front, but without the somebody behind or to the side, or when the camera's off out front, that partnership does not prosper, and that organization doesn't grow. So, we're blessed to be on camera today, the three of us. I represent Eagle, you represent the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum. There's a bunch of other Eagles, and there's a bunch of other Eisenhower people who make this world go around. We just get to be in front of the camera now.
That's right.
I hear that there's a chance that we'll put Samantha in my chair next time, and she as a communication director, to give us her expertise. I thought the Mamie one would be it.
It would be perfect for her.
I've seen her stand in front of the vault and covet those clothes.
Yes, but unfortunately,
Can't have them.
Can't have them. Mamie's
Can't
clothes
have
can only
them.
go on display. We can't wear those. So, yeah.
Anyway, it's a great opportunity to be here today. I'd like to do another show when Sam gets it scheduled for us to talk about some of the things that you found, Pam, about Mamie. How interesting. And there has to be more material.
Oh, tons. There
Okay.
are thousands of pages in collections.
Yeah. I think the relevancy that we try to present to the camera would be a great thing, to present the balance side of the relationship. We just shot a program for when people are viewing this, would have been last month's program, where Eisenhower talked about balance in the world is key to the world staying successful. Well, balance in the White House and balance in any house is key to being successful there too. And they were a great example for all of us to follow.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
I don't know that we talked about the beautiful little cup. If you did,
Yeah, I did just mention
Okay.
that was Icky's baby cup.
oh, that's his baby cup. That's right. Okay, so it's a baby cup. And none of my kids' baby cups looks like that. A little sippy thing on
Yeah.
it.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. And the one thing we didn't cover is it looks like a gift from a small child to Mamie.
Yes, their granddaughter Susie drew Mamie a picture. It says to Mimi. That was their name for her instead of Grandma. It says to Mimi from Susie, and it's a picture she drew and put some pussy willows,
Pussy willows on it, and it says pussy willows come in the spring or in
Right.
April or something like
In the
that.
spring.
It says on the front. Yeah, and there's a bonus picture on the back for
There
those of
is.
you at home.
That must have been the first draft.
What a cool thing. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have things like this stuffed in my drawers around the house, and occasionally I come upon them, and they bring warm memories and fond thoughts of the event. And what a great thing it is that we have the Eisenhower Presidential Library here to hold things like this, give people connection to their past, and what a great first family.
Absolutely.
Okay, William, Pam, thanks for having me today. Thanks for
Thank you.
making
Thank you.
this opportunity available to our viewers at home. Why Like Ike? Oh, it's a great thing. Come join us here at the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum. Wonderful artifacts, wonderful stories, wonderful people. Looking for you here and hoping you have a great day.